Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Emily Ikuda. I'm Percona's Digital Marketing Manager here. We'll get started in just a moment. I just want to conduct a bit of housekeeping. Can you raise your hand using the hand icon located in the GoToWebinar control panel to let me know that you can hear me? Great. Next, during this webinar, you will be on mute. Should you have any questions, go ahead and enter those anytime during the discussion down in the questions field. At the end of the webinar, we'll take some time to answer as many questions as possible. Those that aren't addressed will be answered in a follow-up blog entry on Percona's database performance blog. In addition, a recording of this webinar will be made available to everyone within 48 hours or less, along with the slides. With that said, I'd like to thank you for attending today's webinar, Percona Software News and Roadmap Update, presented by Percona's CEO and co-founder, Peter Zaitsev. Take it away, Peter.
Hey, thank you, Emily. Hello, everyone, and let's dive straight into that. So the first thing I want to talk about briefly is, yeah, sometimes you get focused on an application and your keyboard doesn't work for switching or whatever. So we are going. So why I have started doing those webinars is because as I talk to many users and customers, I keep hearing, hey guys, what you have been up to recently, right? What you're working on. And this is a way to provide a quick overview, and a quick overview both for Percona services as well as what we are doing with our open source software. So let's start covering our services and other solutions. Now, I wanted to start with stating what our the purpose, which I really keep very dear to my heart, and which is to champion unbiased open source database solution. And what that really means, and how we are maybe different from some other companies, is what we are really about solutions. We really write some solutions to better offer solutions for our customers and the ecosystems at large. And we are also really focused on using the best what already exists in the open source community. And frankly, that is our preferred way. If you can use something that exists instead of spending our valuable time to write something of our own, that is what we would prefer. Now, in part because of that, we are also able to have all of our software which we ship is free and open source, right? So we don't have any commercial variants of our software, and we are really very much focused on finding solutions to really help you to be successful. Now, what we also do beyond our work with MySQL and MongoDB is really helping companies with a strategy to migrate to open source databases. That's maybe solutions which we cover, such as MySQL or MongoDB, or you may be using some other tools, right? Maybe you need to use something like Redis or the Hadoop in certain cases, or Postgres. And while we may not be often always be their right partner to have all the services in-house, we can often refer you to some partners which you know in ecosystems which are doing a good job. When we say what we focus on MySQL and MongoDB, really we talk at a very broad ecosystem, not a very narrow product definition. So, for example, MySQL, which has a much more broad and evolved ecosystem, as it's a very old and mature product at this point, we include in that MySQL and Percona Server and MariaDB and cloud solutions such as Google Cloud SQL and Amazon Aurora and so on and so forth. And we really have a lot of our customers which run many of those different solutions, not just Percona software. And we are absolutely fine with that. We also work a lot with special options for platform as a service the solutions or clouds, right? So you'll find a lot of experience in Percona with specific experience for solutions like Amazon, Google Cloud Platform, or OpenStack. In general, we believe it is the best for both companies to focus on our shared success, which is done through building long-term partnership. So a lot of our focus is centered around support services and managed services, which we tend to look this way. Our Percona support is pretty much your foundation of those Percona ongoing services. Then we have additional service called Percona Server, which you can think about as a support plus or more proactive support. That is where we not only work with you on the various issues you have, but really have a person, technical account manager assigned to really work with you to make sure what your strategic needs are taken care of. As well, it can involve some regular consultant, for example, if you would like to include part-time DBA, that can be provided as a part of Percona Care. And finally, if you say, hey, you know what, I would just rather have my team focused on of something they care the most, such as creating the software, right? Or maybe even kind of working with developers on the next generation database architecture. We have Percona Care Ultimate, where we provide complete package of managed services with 24/7 monitoring for your infrastructure, proactive response, scheduled reviews, and pretty much everything you need to successfully run your database infrastructure. We also have a consulting and training, and that can be done both on-site and remote. And this is something which goes from 4 hours to full-time engagements, which may last for weeks or even months. And this is services which, and then consulting services are designed for project work or staff augmentation, right? So, for example, if you are looking to have somebody temporarily or permanently working with as a part of your team. Now, what our consulting is not designed for is for emergency help, right? So, for example, if you say, oh my gosh, my server is crashed, I want to go ahead and get Percona consultant to help me right now, that is not what consulting is designed for. That is where you would need the support service. One thing to note is what with our enterprise and premier support, we cover a lot of high availability options, advanced high availability options, what we call here. And this is includes both Galera-based solutions, such as Percona XtraDB Cluster, MariaDB Galera Cluster, or Galera Cluster for MySQL, as well as new MySQL group replication solutions and MySQL InnoDB cluster based on those. And I want to highlight in this case is what at Percona we are giving you a choice. We are not requiring you to use Percona XtraDB Cluster just because it has Percona name on it. We are happy to support you in any case, any choice you make in this case. And if you need our advice in terms of what works best in what cases, we will be very happy to provide that as well. Another thing which is quite special with Percona support offer, and we have seen a lot of traction with larger companies especially, is our enterprise-wide support agreements, which we have two benefits. One is you can really cover both your MongoDB and MySQL environment with a single contract, which is very valuable for companies which run both. And then second is you do not really need to count servers. What we see increasingly is what first is servers may not be very good factor anymore for pricing, right? You can have some very small companies with very simple environment, but we just happen to run on 100 servers, or that you can have it to be the opposite. And then also many companies they have a hard really counting servers because they became so ephemeral with Docker containers, virtualization, so on and so forth, right? You may have your MySQL servers up and coming up and going down all the time, and you don't may not know how many of them are you. And in this case, you have. And in this case, we can provide the highly customized coverage where we can cover the whole organization or some department or application which uses MySQL and MongoDB. We are pretty proud, frankly, right, about our satisfaction rating, which was consistently over 98%, and this is the number I just pulled out today, which was 98.3% of a customer satisfaction over last 12 months. And this is something that is very important for us. I believe that is a very key item of our business at Percona, making sure that we have happy customers. And frankly, why? Well, because we have to, because we provide our software as an open source. We don't have those vendor software vendor lock-in, right, which can really lock you in even if you are not happy with support services on their own, as you would see with some other vendors. Now, with this, I also wanted to highlight what is a Percona support coverage policy is. Now, in our case, especially as I mentioned, we have been so flexible in our coverage, we want to make sure that all the services required to support the application are covered. For example, you cannot have 100 servers powering your application, but you can say, hey, you know, I want to cover only one server, and if I ever have a problems, I will go ahead and repeat that on that server, and so that's the only server I want to cover. In this case, we also are looking only on the services which store your application data. So, for example, proxy SQL services or application services or things like MongoDB sharding services, they don't need to be covered. And then here we do recommend you to cover your staging, dev, and QA in the environments, so we can help you to spot the problems and resolve the problems early before you ship them to production. But that is optional. We don't require that. The new exciting change which we implemented during the summer is that now proxy SQL is fully supported for any MySQL, MariaDB, Percona Server, right? You name it, deployment, not just as a part of Percona XtraDB Cluster deployment, which it was supported previously. Another thing in services which is up and coming is what we have really got a lot of questions from our staff about, well, you're looking at my MySQL deployment, you also know hundreds of others. Can you tell me how do I compare to the rest of the industry, right? Am I following the industry, the department? Am I in top 5% or am I somewhere average? And we have now the private beta of what you call your MySQL deployment assessment as a tool which can help you to understand where you are. And if you are interested in participating in that in this private beta, please drop a note to either your customer success person or sales person. If you're not a customer, you can just fill out the contact us form on Percona website, and we will be happy to work with you on the MySQL deployment assessment as a free service while it's better, and that is something which is just done through the conversation and will take about 1 hour of your time. Okay, moving on to Percona software now. As I mentioned, Percona software follows those simple principles. We have all software as 100 we ship as a free and open source. We don't have any kind of somewhat restricted enterprise version. We don't do open core. We don't do things like, well, it's open source or actually it's going to be eventually. We believe what these are really all the qualities you should seek in the as your first choice in the open source software what you are running. Couple of platform announcements I want to make is what both Red Hat Enterprise Linux 5 and Ubuntu 12.04 have reached end of life, and we are not providing builds for those platforms anymore. And that is something which we have previously communicated, but I just wanted to highlight for folks who may still run those quite old operating system versions. Now, on having Percona software available on more platforms, we have now all Percona software available on Docker, and that applies to all the software which makes sense. You can even use Percona XtraBackup through the Docker image right now. Please try it out and see what how it works for you, and wherever something we can do better. Let's go through Percona software now one by one. For Percona Server for MySQL, our latest release is 5.7, and our focus with Percona Server 5.7 is really to provide 100% compatibility with MySQL 5.7 Community Edition. So what we will make sure is that is truly drop-in replacement, and if it behaves in a different ways, right, then we'll consider as a bug and fix it. Well, with exception of if it behaves better in terms of providing better performance, then that's exactly what we'd like to see. Addition to the compatibility, we focus on providing alternatives to many MySQL enterprise feature. We include TokuDB engine and now experimental build of a RocksDB storage engine, and we focus a lot also on performance and observability or operational visibility, really, so you can quickly resolve the complicated problems you may have. So what you have been doing recently, what's have been shipped? The MyRocks has been included with Percona Server. We also include the MySQL group replication. Frankly, since the time it's included, and I'm just continue iterating that because so many people think, well, Percona is only about Percona XtraDB Cluster and not including group replication. And then it also has implemented the prefix index query optimizations for InnoDB. On MyRocks, I would really encourage you to test it out and provide that as feedback. It is not GA quality yet, but frankly, it's very hard to make a product really truly stable and high quality without getting external feedback. We are doing a lot of testing, and Facebook has done a lot of testing before us, but it's very hard to cover all variety of workloads where many thousands of users throughout the world have. And I have provided the Jira URL here. That is something you can use to file the MyRocks specific bugs as you encourage them in Percona Server. Let's now talk about the index query optimization. And index query optimization, this is something which came from this post, which was posted by Harrison Fisk on Facebook. Well, now quite a few years ago, and it talks about what MySQL has kind of two great things: index only queries, where MySQL is able to resolve a query using index only, as well as prefix indexes, which allow you to index only part of the index. But those things don't quite work together. And here is kind of more specific example where you can get a medium text column and, let's say, build a prefix index of 100 characters and then run select query. In the past, before this optimization, well, you would always have to go to kind of a data and could not run as an index covered query. Right now, with the optimization, you would only need to do that if a text field is long, all right, and it wasn't fully available in the index. This is kind of, you can think about that as a pretty niche optimization, but in the workloads where it is helpful, it can really drastically improve performance. And I provided here 2 links for you on the slides, both to original post by Harrison Fisk, which has a lot of commentary about people excited about the feature and talking about how it could be helpful, as well as about the documentation of their implementation in Percona Server. What are we looking at to be released recently? Well, one is integration of TokuDB and performance schema, and that is something I'm very excited on because that will allow us to understand the TokuDB bottlenecks and performance properties much better. Then they're picking up another feature from Facebook MySQL patch set called logical read ahead, which allow to speed up, substantially speed up certain kind of operations, such as full table scans, such as what MySQL dump is doing, or also their that can help with large range scans. And then they're also starting to look towards MySQL 8, which is not even at the release candidate stage yet, but but time-wise, we believe that is something which will be getting close to a release sometime in the next months, and we want to make sure what we have Percona Server 8 prepared as well. For Percona XtraBackup, which is our backup solution, which is alternative to MySQL enterprise backup with a lot of features. In terms of the new features, we have done a lot of performance improvements recently, and then what we also added recently, and you can see it highlighted in black in the very last release, is fast index creation safe backup mode, right? And you may say, what the hell is that about, and why would I care? Now, there was an interesting feature added in MySQL 5.7, where MySQL is optimized so then in a DB storage engine, it builds the indexes using fast index creation. It actually does not store the all page modification in redo logs, because that just could cause a significant performance bottleneck, right? But because of that, Percona XtraBackup, well, as well as the MySQL enterprise backups, they could not work in a normal way. And what this feature allow you to say, hey, you know what? I want to make sure I will prevent the DDLs which use that fast index creation from proceeding while I'm taking backup, so I can ensure my backup completes successful, instead of just trying to backup and then saying, oh, look at that, we found there was this online index creation operation run in the table, so well, we have to fail the backup and instruct users to restart it, right? This is okay, in certain cases that is not acceptable behavior. In terms of Percona Toolkit, that is our tool which really helps DBAs to make more to be more efficient and make less mistakes. And it supported a lot of tools in the MySQL ecosystem, and now we have some tools available for MongoDB as well. More specifically, we have two of the most popular tools, such as PT Summary and PT query digest implemented for MongoDB as well. What we're also doing is we have a new tools implemented in Go, which gives us their faster performance, and it's easy to maintain the comparability for tools developed in Go compared to Perl. The new things we have in the latest release is we now have support for after triggers and PT Online schema change, and we also have a way now to make PT Online schema change safer to check for unique keys. Because if you have unique keys, there are some dangers. If you're adding unique key, then there is a danger in using PT Online schema change in case the data in your table is not truly unique. Percona Server for MongoDB, this is our software which is follow the same pattern as MySQL, Percona Server for MySQL. It is 100% compatible with MongoDB Community Edition, 100% open source, and provides alternatives for many MongoDB enterprise features, as well as 2 additional storage engines: MongoRox, RocksDB storage engine, as well as Percona memory engine. Yeah, and then in terms of Percona Server for MongoDB 3.4, we have updated versions in MongoRox and Percona memory storage engine here. And they also have done a number of improvements to this enterprise-only features, such as log reductions and profile rate, and added profile rate limited, which is also, it may sound as a pretty exotic feature, but that really what allows you is to have a query sampling, which is a very good way to understand your workload. For example, with PMM, then you have way too many queries to be able to log and analyze all of them. And another great feature in Percona Server 3.4 is we have a hot backup support for WireTiger and MongoRox storage engines. And let me show a couple of benchmarks here. This one is for Percona memory engine for MongoDB, and you can see is what, especially for write-intensive workload, it gives you much better performance, and especially a lot more predictable performance compared to WireTiger. Both of you are using, spin hard drives or SSD drives, and that is really very good storage engine to use in a lot of cases. So, for example, we have some folks which previously had to use solutions like Redis or Memcache. They could now use Percona memory engine to use what MongoDB is good at, is, for example, very expressive document language, as well as sharding functionality and replication, while being able to have an in-memory performance. And I would be honest in this case. I mean, Percona memory engine would not be quite exactly match in performance for Memcache, for example. But in many cases, it will be still provide performance which is more than enough for majority of the deployments. And the same thing applies to WireTiger versus MongoRox. If you're really looking for a write-intensive workloads, we often can find a better performance with compared to WireTiger in RocksDB. I would just highlight, of course, what MongoRox and RocksDB in general is write-optimized storage engine. So it is not expected to be better than WireTiger or better than InnoDB for MySQL for every single workload, right? It's very workload specific. Okay. The next goal is Percona XtraDB Cluster 5.7. This is our high availability solution, which is based on Percona Server 5.7, and which is designed to be an easiest way to bring high availability to your MySQL environment. And the thing what we did out there is we kind of a couple of design goals. One is we designed this solution to really work very well with the cloud, and also provide you a multi-master replication with no conflicts. And what I mean in this case, that means unlike the MySQL replication where you can only write to a single node master, and if you write on the slave, well, you just broke your replication and have to recover. You can write to any node, read from any node with Percona XtraDB Cluster. And also it provides the automatic node provisioning, which is great for after scaling and self-healing. Right, so for example, I can run 4-node Percona XtraDB Cluster in AWS and then see, oh, well, I'm having too much load. I can spin up a new instance which can basically join the cluster, and you'll have more capacity out there. Or you can do that, for example, when one of the nodes in the cluster died and you want to recover, you can kick off the instance and instruct it to join the cluster, and that's all you have to do, right? You don't have to deal with recovering the backup as if normal kind of MySQL replication, and finding the right position and other kind of steps you may need to take with replication. Now you may ask, okay, well, Peter, you are explaining this is kind of all great, but how do I inform my application where it had 3 nodes? Now I have let's say four nodes to deal with. The other node is added, and the great way to do that is to really work with the integrated cluster-aware load balancer, which is proxy. Which is what we provide the proxy SQL for, where you can just route all the traffic to a proxy SQL or maybe several proxy SQL instances, and it can take care of routing the traffic around the cluster, taking care about if there's more nodes join in or some nodes leave a cluster or become overloaded, and so on and so forth. And that is, I think, a very important feature in Percona XtraDB Cluster 5.7. We also provide better instrumentation with Percona performance schema, so you can diagnose it better. And a lot of that is also being now exposed in our monitoring solution, Percona Monitoring and Management. We also did a lot of work to make sure that Percona XtraDB Cluster is safe and secure by default, or at least it's very easy to make it secure. So, for example, we have a strict mode, which really allows us to prevent using features which do not work correctly in a cluster environment, right? So, for example, my sum tables don't really work with Percona XtraDB Cluster or Galera replication in general. In PXE 5.7, you won't be allowed to create MySum tables by default unless you specify an option to say, yes, I really know what I'm doing. I won't blame you if I'm going to lose my data, and then you can go ahead. There are also easy tools to improve security, right? So, for example, we have an option which is only one option called PXE encrypt cluster traffic, which you specify, and that's the only option you need to take care to make sure all your in-cluster traffic is using SSL and you don't ever have anything unsecure going on. What is also we're able to achieve with PXE 5.7 is we are able to still continue to doing improvements even in this major the release in the minor releases, right, for that major PXE 5.7 release. And in the recent releases, we did a lot of work on performance, where for certain workloads we have up to 10 times better performance, which I think is a huge gain for the minor release. We're also able to do things like parallel state transfer with Percona XtraBackup, and better instrumentation of things like throw control and others. And here are some graphs and some links if you guys want to look into more details. And what really makes me happy about those graphs is what we are able to find optimizations which are not exotic, but these are optimizations which give substantial performance improvements for some very common workloads. Now, I mentioned about the integration with proxy SQL. How does that really really work? We are paying a lot of attention of trying to make that as simple for users as possible. And for that, we provide proxy SQL admin script, where you literally can, by running script once, configure proxy SQL for working with Percona XtraDB Cluster. Another thing what we support is a zero downtime maintenance. And what that means is if you, for example, want to shut down the node for maintenance, but you don't want your transactions in flight to be impacted, what you can do now is you can just issue a node shutdown process, and then the node will signal to proxy SQL it is shutting down, and proxy SQL will migrate their connections, if that's possible, to the other nodes, which means you most likely have no application impact, such as broken queries or connections. And that is, I think, is fantastic for a lot of applications. Now, we are now working for Percona XtraDB Cluster September release, and here is where I will leave some mystery, because Percona Live Europe is coming up in now about 3 weeks, and I want to save some of the excitement for that event. Wherever you have a chance to attend that event, or just going to focus to follow us remotely, then check out with Percona the website and the newsletter. There will be some exciting announcement coming up. So, Percona monitoring and management, and this is our comprehensive database focused monitoring, which is A, 100% open source, and B, that is roll your own. And what I mean is it is not cloud based. You roll it on in your own data center, which on one extent may sound very old fashioned, but it has a substantial benefits as well, because what that means is you can be much more flexible in how much data and what kind of data are you sending in your monitoring solution, if that's resides in your data center. And there are a number of benefits if you can be more flexible in this regard. We focus on MySQL and MongoDB right now, and our version 1 or 1.x actually is focused on interactive MySQL and MongoDB troubleshooting, right, and performance optimization. And in the future, it will live true to its name and also have their management features to come. Here are some highlights in terms of their graphs, what these tools can do. One, it can really help us to understand what queries are causing the load for MySQL, and that is very valuable, because if you have a MySQL in distress, performing bad, or have some other issues, it is very commonly going to be related to some of the queries you are running. Now, when you identify the queries, you can use this also tool to call why are they causing this load. Why are those heavy queries? Are they missing the index, or are they causing too much disk I/O, and so on and so forth, right? So, for example, for this query, I can see, well, this query causing a lot of load, and it actually spent 15% of the query time waiting on logs, right? If I could make it a log-less, then I could potentially save that query, or I may be able to find why is it waiting on log so much by finding other queries. We also provide the infrastructure about all the data on the same page about how to fix them. The most important items, such as run and explain, create table, understanding table status and index cardinality. The DBAs or developers, whoever is responsible can take a look at that page and easily find solutions for what to do with the query. We also integrative solutions such as in Percona Toolkit, such as PT Summary and PT MySQL Summary, which can be very handy if you are working with a lot of nodes, and you may not remember what exactly versions of software or what kind of hardware you're running. And besides that, I think some of the more sexy features or more kind of finely designed is our Grafana-powered dashboards. We have, I think now more than 20 dashboards and literally hundreds of graphs on all aspects of what happens on operating system and hardware level, as well as a database level, such as in this case looking at one of the MySQL instance. Now, the best way to explore PMM is, of course, is to go ahead and install it. It should not take you more than 15 minutes. But if you want to be a little bit more confident before you do that, I would encourage you to check out our demo at pmmdemo.percona.com. It's just live website which runs, I think, probably about 20 MySQL, Percona Server, MariaDB, MongoDB instances, right? And you can explore a lot of features on the live data with some variety of workloads we're running. Now, what's going on out there with Percona Monitor Management? Well, we're doing a lot of work. Some of that comes from our improvements, and other, frankly, comes from Grafana and Prometheus, which really add more and more features into this software in every release, and we are very happy what we are able to stand on the shoulder of the giants while producing the software. In PMM, we are also planning a new and exciting release planned this month for Percona Live Europe. So again, check back with us, and there are some really cool, exciting features coming. So more about the conferences. We are running the conference this year in Dublin, September 25th to 27th. If you haven't gotten your ticket yet, we will recommend to go ahead and do that now, because last year the conference which we had in Amsterdam sold out, and we could not accommodate everybody who wanted to attend. So keep that in mind. And finally, if you are going to Amazon reInvent, we will be participating this year, and we will be doing showing some cool stuff we're doing specifically with and on Amazon Cloud. Please stop by our booth if you are at Amazon reInvent. And with this, I'm done with my slides, and I'm happy to take some questions if you have any.
Thank you so much for that, Peter. At this time, go ahead and enter any questions that you have. Right now, our first question is, does Hot Backup solution for MongoDB provide the ability to, 1, take incremental backups, 2, point-in-time restore, is it possible, and 3, does it do explicit oplog backup possible?
Well, that is a very good good question, and frankly, I cannot ask to that question myself, right? I mean, I am not as deep in our MongoDB software details as has happened with MySQL, but we'll provide an answer on the follow-up blog for this question.
Thank you, Peter. Our next question is, does Percona plan to add automatic partition maintenance in a future release?
Automatic partition maintenance is not very clear. Automatic partition maintenance, what does that implies?
Okay, we'll wait for them to respond.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, I see. I assume there's something being typed right now.
To prune partitions automatically after a certain date or threshold.
No, okay. No, so right now we don't have that specifically in our plans to have the automated partition pruning. Now, and the reason for that is we don't want in this case to add something exotic in Percona Server, right? There are some reasonable solutions which exist in this case on non-server level, right? So for example, what we see in this case is a lot of people are able to do that either through scripts, right? There they would truncate the old partitions or discard them and add the new ones, right? For example, for next month, or even on MySQL level, right? In MySQL level, you can create their event and the little store procedure, which is going to do exactly that in a customized fashion.
Thank you. Going back to the first question that was asked on the MongoDB backups, so to kind of clarify, we'll follow up in a blog entry to give you a little bit more information about your question. Hopefully that makes a little bit more sense.
Okay.
All right. Well, if there are no more questions, then we will actually conclude a little bit early and give everybody back 10 minutes back in their day. So thank you so much, Peter, for presenting today. And thank you, everybody, for attending today's webinar. And we hope to see you on future webinars. And as a reminder, a copy of the recording and the slides will be sent out 48 hours or less. And we will answer that one question on our blog. So thank you so much, everybody, for attending, and thank you for joining us.
Okay. Thank you.